Hey, Anthony.
Hey.
Hey, we're continuing Form 5471 series. First part, we talked about what's a controlled foreign corporation. Then we talked about the history, the crazy history. And today we want to talk about the penalties.
That's right.
The IRS currently is not focused on Form 5471 penalties, but that could change if they run out of revenue from FBARs and FATCA.
Right. And I think that our concern is right now it's not a big focus of them. The exposure's there. That's for sure. And just like FBAR exposure was always there, most CPAs just sort of, they knew about the FBAR. They didn't bother filing because, well, what's the use? The IRS isn't going to penalize you anyway. You're not evading taxes. So, who cares? So sort of the same, I think, unfortunately, sort of the same thinking is coming into place because we're running into cases where people have hired law firms to do a voluntary disclosure. They do a voluntary disclosure and they're missing Form 5471.
Wow.
So, there's actually ways you can avoid some of the recognition and filing it during the standard one, but going forward, you need to know it's there. And so it's something that people are just missing out. And then in streamlined offshore disclosures, it is something that has to be there. So people are submitting incomplete voluntary disclosures because these foreign reporting forms are rather complicated. The IRS has not made them a focus. It really, and it hasn't really pushed it in the news that this exists. And it's really, you could have, we did have a client in many countries that if you're a U.S. person, you title everything in the name of a corporation because you are a target for a lawsuit. We had a client who bought some jet skis, or bought a jet ski, I think, and he put that into a controlled foreign corporation. It was a foreign corporation in Costa Rica. And guess what? That met the asset level, met the qualification or requirement to file a Form 5471 on a jet ski.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
And two important things to note here is, one, we've mentioned before, the IRS is getting better at keeping electronic records. So it's going to be easier for them to go back in time once they realize they might be able to get money from the penalties. And this is last on my list, but I think I want to talk about it first, is if you fail to file Form 5471, your entire tax return remains open for audit indefinitely. So they can go back as long as they have records and technically penalize you.
Right. Isn't that a wonderful little way to that's a nice little can opener to get into anything. You're time limited. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
Here's this small little form you forgot that doesn't do anything to raise or lower your taxes.
No.
It's just an informational reporting form like an FBAR form is. FBAR doesn't ask you, filing an FBAR, not filing your FBAR isn't the thing that increases your taxes. Worldwide tax jurisdiction is what increases your taxes, and the same thing is true here. Doesn't even have any impact whatsoever on what your taxes are, but the failure to file it can be devastating.
Right. So let's start with that. Important fact number one. Even if you don't owe money, even if you get a refund, that has nothing to do with the filing requirement. You have to fill out this form, no matter what.
Correct.
Okay. So we've got a base penalty of $10,000 per form per year if it's filed late, inaccurately, or not at all. So even if you have someone else prepare it and you sign it, if it's inaccurate, you're responsible.
Yeah. And now, again, it's the same sort of thing like the FBAR. There's no late FBAR penalty. There's an FBAR non-filing penalty. And so, filing on July 1st this year would make it, hey, you could be subject to an FBAR penalty. Now, the truth is I haven't seen a case of them doing that yet. But they will, they certainly can. Well, actually, I did see a case, we did have a case where they assessed a FBAR penalty for a case where the FBAR was filed about 5 months after the due date with an OVDI submission.
Wow.
They did assess the FBAR penalty for that. So that was somewhat ridiculous. So it can happen. Now, we just haven't seen them assessing 5471 penalties much at all. So we're not trying to scare people to say, hey, look, they've been doing this. We're saying that they can, which maybe even be more scarier.
Right. Form 5471, as a side note, should be filed with your income tax return, and extensions do apply to this form. So if you have an extension on your income tax, it applies to Form 5471.
Which, by the way, that's what's for in 2016, your 2015 FBAR will have the same thing. If it's going to be due with your 1040, if you file an extension, it'll be due with your 1040 and the extension. So the June 30th date will be gone Next
Phew.
year, yes.
Let's simplify as much as we can. So next, when we're talking about that base penalty of $10,000 per form per year, if the information is not provided within 90 days after the IRS mailed a notice to you, letting you know that you hadn't filed or made an error, an additional $10,000 penalty per foreign corporation can be charged for each 30-day period during which you continue not to file. The additional penalty limited there is max $50,000. So you have your base of $10,000, and then it can be an additional $10,000 if the IRS says, "Hey, we're supposed to have this," and you're like, "Well, good luck." They just keep hitting you with it.
They can.
Okay, and then the reduction of foreign taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that?
Well, you're allowed a credit for taxes that you pay in another country. Like that's allows you to do that. Well, what they do is they take away a bit of that credit if you don't file it.
Okay.
So you're sort of getting another penalty, or it's just another way to penalize you. Now their limitations are, it says no more than a $50,000 penalty, no matter what, for each 5471. That is per year, right? Per entity, right? But for a lot of people, that when they have several entities, several years. And when you can go back, well, you can get up, you can get up to, if you were doing 10 years and you have, if you have 5 CFCs, that's $1 million, right? I mean, they could, so, I mean, I don't know how, I don't know, we don't know what's going to happen. Somebody, this might be something that just sits on the back burner like the FBAR did for 30 years. And then one day, who knows when. So it's really something you do want to be a top on, because there's going to be a lot of people. I do think it just would make sense. This would be sort of the next target. Your 5471, your 5472, your 3520As, 3520, 8865. These are all the foreign informational returns that will probably be getting the focus because this is the thing, is like all these people are now filing now with tax professionals. It's like, well, now what's your excuse? You hired someone and they still didn't get it right who was. And so now they're going to, it gives them plenty of legs to get penalties. And, again, the IRS is looking for the easy penalty. And they're looking for the easy result. This is where you can get it.
It seems pretty easy.
It's like, hey, did you file it or not? No? Okay, great.
I'll take $1 million.
Thank you.
So now it would be a good time to get into compliance.
That's right. And continue and make sure it's done correctly. And I think that might be the probably most important thing is your jet ski could have a 5471 requirement. Dormant control foreign corporations can also have a 5471 requirement. Now, it's much easier, but you have to meet the qualifications for the dormant. Then you have a simplified 5471, and you have to write dormant on the top of it, right? There's no checkbox to say dormant. You got to love, it's like you guys don't have the technology to add that checkbox.
Anybody got a black Sharpie I can borrow?
Yeah, it just sort of cracks me up. It's like, we'll get to fix it we'll get to fixing that someday.
Yeah. I would say now's the time to take care of it if you're unsure. And you can like and comment below if you have questions. We'll get back to you. And you can also subscribe to our channel. We're going to be continuing our Form 5471 series. Next, we'll be talking about filing categories, schedules, all sorts of good stuff. Thanks for watching. IRSMedic, the law offices of Parent & Parent, LLP. Real tax attorneys for tough tax problems.